Hello and welcome to Rival Views, which is a crap name, but it's the best one we could come up with, which is a meeting we have before each game with a member of the opposing fan base. I say before each game. Second one of these we've done, although Joe has done to, my co-chair Joe has done to on the women's game. So I'm Jim Dolan, co-chair of Pride of Irons. We've got Rob, who you remember from the last video. Say hello, Rob.
Hello, everyone.
And we're very, very honoured and pleased to be joined, maybe not by the end of this, by Joe, who is co-chair of Arsenal's Gay Gooners. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you very much for having me on. I look forward to my fee.
Good luck with that. Yeah,
Oh, wait, I'm not getting paid for this.
Next time we see you physically in person, yeah? That's when you'll get paid.
Oh, damn.
So not at least for 6 months. So we're going to jump straight in. Got a series of questions that we'll ask the standard, and we'll go between Joe and Rob for some answers. So
my name's Cassie.
And Rob's name is Cassie on the screen right now. I don't even know if that comes up in the videos. So let's quickly rename Rob to
Cassie
Rob.
2.
There we go, Cassie 2, the revenge, back in the habit. So we're going to jump straight in with Joe first. Joe, early in the season, so we can't really ask what you've made of it so far, but transfer window, we're still kind of running towards the end of that, couple of weeks to go. What are your hopes and aspirations for the season, and what do you think of the transfers so far?
I think I'll start with transfers because it's in the top of my head.
You've got some to talk about and we don't.
Yeah, exactly. I think Gabrielle was superb in our first game. It's nice to have a left-footed centre-back, and I know that's something the club were looking at as kind of a gap, which I think most of the fan base were aware of as well. So it's nice to have a centre-back. He looked very comfortable. Nice to see him get a goal as well, someone who can win in the air. We now suddenly have a threat from set pieces. It's superb. I think we generally agree that we need a creative midfielder. It's great to see Danny Ceballos back on another season-long loan, but it'd be nice to have someone more permanent and just someone basically to replace Ozil when Ozil goes, which we know will happen once we've basically paid for this year. I think goalkeepers is possibly an issue. I know we've just sold Martinez, which was quite sad to see him go after a wonderful end of last season and seeing him play quite regularly in the Cups. Aston Villa have got a really good keeper there, I think. Great fantasy football is possibly one reason I will keep him in mind. But issues we have, we're looking at signing this new keeper, 1.5 million from France. And then Matt Macy, who's currently our third keeper, has said that he wants to leave if we sign a second keeper, which would make our third choice keeper probably someone really young and random who hasn't got the experience. And that would be a concern given Leno's only just back from injury and you can easily get a sending off or another freak injury. And
I mean, it's interesting to hear concerns coming from you. Those are your concerns. Ours are that we're not going to bloody sign anyone. But so you've got Gabrielle centre back. Is that not a bit of a problem having someone playing centre back who's got an eye patch on? I was going to make a joke about, you said what a good player is, about dreams can come true. But anyway,
That's been too easy.
Too easy.
It would have been too easy, but I expected that from Jim.
So, okay, so a bit of transfer activity going on. Well, it's a lot compared to us, but then anyone's is. So your hopes for the season?
I'd hope we can at least, I don't necessarily think we'll get top four, but I think we can make a good push for it. Obviously, you look at other clubs and they've made some big spendings. We all know who I'm talking about there, and I dare not mention their name because I don't like them. And then you've got Liverpool and Man City are still up there from squad. It's just whether they've got the depth if any injuries happen. And then I think for fourth, really, there's quite a lot of clubs that could push. Some that weren't even in the top 7 last year that have made really good signings, and some hopefully will drop down, but there's still a bit of time in the transfer window to go. But I'd hope we at least get Europe. We do well in one of the cups, win or not. But already this season, we've got one more trophy than the Lily Whites will ever get. And they've only just limped over the line. against a 9-man Bulgarian squad that could only come 5th last year. I mean, who really cares when you've already got a trophy up on your rivals?
So, everyone's favourite team there, obviously.
What's a trophy?
Right.
We might have to borrow some space in their cabinet. It's empty.
Well, if you want an extra one, David Gold's flogging, I think, was it the original FA Cup? So
yeah, £1 million, $1 million.
So it's the only cup that West Ham have got any sight of, touching, and he's getting rid of it. So looking forward to hopefully getting into Europe again. You like an away day, don't you, Joe? So I suppose that's.
I'm gutted this season that we haven't got them. I'm kind of hoping we go for one that thinks coronavirus doesn't exist, and is very
like Sweden,
rural.
where they're just ignoring it.
But is very rural. So like the risk of you catching it is very low. And you can be socially responsible because there's like 3 people who live in that village. But you can go out and actually watch football in stadium. It's frustrating. It isn't the same.
So West Ham women had a trial game at the weekend, so there's 1,000 supporters there.
It was great for them to see a wonderful performance by us.
Oh, piss off! So
and the referee,
but they said it was
awful.
It was nice to be back at football, even though they were kind of spaced far apart, and there's still a relatively good atmosphere there. I just hope they do sort of similar test games in the men's game. I hope, obviously October now is looking optimistic about getting back into the stadiums, but it'd be nice to just at least see a couple live this season. Well,
yeah, I just know with Arsenal, there's no chance of me getting in because I'm not a season ticket holder, and even season ticket holders, it's all on ballot if they do have capacity, because we've got something like 40,000 out of the 60,000 as season ticket holders, and they can only have a capacity of something like 17% maximum.
Jesus.
So it's a really difficult. I don't envy the people in charge of the clubs having to work out who gets in, how it's done.
Who was it? Was it West Ham that was talking about doing like a spray tunnel or something, a disinfectant tunnel?
Yeah, no, it was trolled. Was it not trolled at the women's game? They were talking about trialing it. Yeah, like an archway that you walk through and it gives you a light coating to disinfect you. Essentially,
that sounds like
unless it's spraying stuff into your lungs. I don't know that it's going to be that helpful. But look, moving on to the game at the weekend. How do you expect to be lining up against West Ham, Joe?
I'd hope that we line up quite attacking, just because West Ham look like they're there for the taking.
Hey, you didn't see us tear apart Charlton the other night.
I am very, very happy that you beat Charlton, because I live in South West London, so anything southeast is horrible, and it's Charlton. I thought they'd folded by now, but clearly not. But no, I think we'll be attacking. First home game of the season for us as well. So you'd hope attacking Alba leading the line. I'd be interested to see if Laka starts or if he plays Pepe and Saka. It'd be nice to see Saka start. I think pace against you guys will be something that is a strength. I think at the back, what our back four is going to be. David Luiz apparently has a neck injury, and that's still being assessed, which is a real shame that he might not be able to play. It's the weight of his hair. I'm convinced of it. But you'd expect Gabriel to start, probably with Holding, Leno in goal, and then Bellerin on the right wing, and then probably Tierney as left centre back. And then Maitland-Niles on left wing back.
Rob, thoughts on that? We're there for the taking. Any kind of pace against us is going to rip us apart. How do you think we're going to line up against Arsenal?
Well, going by the Newcastle game, I don't think Joe's quite far off, if I'm honest. But I think we've totally changed. I think we've totally changed the team because of Haller scoring 2 goals against Charlton. I think they'll play him up front. I think they'll move Antonio into left and play Fornells in Noble, and I think they'll drop Noble. I kind of hope they do that because I think we're going to need to match pace with pace. And I think Fredericks will play as well. And I'm hoping Arthur plays at left back because I thought Creswell was awful against Newcastle.
He's such a He's such a liability, though, isn't he? Having him play left back. It's okay, you know, against a lower league opposition. I mean, we just strolled past Charlton at points the other day,
Yeah,
and having had Ale, yeah, fine. He did well against Charlton, but when he
yeah.
came on against Newcastle the other day, I didn't see
He
any
was a
positives.
wandering giant, wasn't he? Really, he was just lost
You know, he
in the
reminds me of
mud.
sometimes. Remember the way Anelka used to wander around, like kind of just looking really stroppy and sulky, except he
Yeah,
could score goals. That was
yeah,
the main
exactly.
difference.
He had a bit of pace about him, exactly. But I think I'd like to maybe see us play with wing backs and maybe play three at the back, maybe, or play like a very like two real holding midfield, like real deep holding midfielders, because I think it will be like an absolute. I think we'll have to play on the kind of defensive with the counter to get anything from the game, because I think if we go for it, I think we'll obviously leak goals because of how bad our defence is. So
Thing is with West Ham though, like we got beat by Newcastle, which wasn't one that we thought we'd necessarily win, but it's the kind of game you expect that we should be trying to win.
yeah,
But it's not un-West Ham like to then just show up for Arsenal. I'm not saying we will.
Batter a big club. You do quite often.
But well, more. It's not as often as you think, unfortunately. But we do
It
have
feels
that.
more often.
See, if you guys are changing stadium every season, we'd be fine. We'd be guaranteed a win because we'd be the first ones there to get 3 points. But yeah, I mean, who knows? So Rob, who do you think is going to be dangerous for us and for Arsenal?
for us, I think it might be Antonio. I think he might kind of realise that he wasn't so good, but then he didn't have the service as well at the first game of Newcastle. So I think, depending when they play him, I think if they play him on the left, if having him cutting in trying to take that pop shot, I'm going to go with Antonio for sure. And maybe I've got that kind of feeling that it would be him. And like I said, if he plays for Arsenal as well, because if that little he's a kind of bit like a fox in the box, but with pace. And I think we'll really struggle with that. I think we'll struggle with any Arsenal players. If I'm honest, up front, I think they've got a really good counter-attack inside, and I don't know if we can keep up with that kind of pace. We haven't got less of pace.
Same question, Joe. Who do you think for Arsenal?
Well, given he's just signed a new contract, I have to say Aubameyang for us.
Yeah, that's good.
Just get the ball to him and let him. If you let him cut in onto his right foot, you've seen him score against Liverpool like that. You saw him score against Fulham like that. It's almost becoming a trademark for him. For you guys, Jim, are you able to play? You're probably better than most of the squad at the moment.
You've seen me play, so you know that ain't fucking true.
Well, I've seen you play in a winning West Ham side, which is quite rare.
But beat Arsenal.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I'd probably say your squad. Diangana? Oh wait, no, he got sold.
Why did I ask you to do this? I knew you'd be like this. He's like this all the time. Sorry, like this all the time.
Seriously, I would probably say I agree Antonio would be one to watch, especially with the strength he has, which usually is something that Arsenal defensively can struggle against, although Gabriel looks like probably nuttier. Or someone like Declan Rice, something with creativity. I think you'll need that creativity.
The good thing with Antonio is that he's strong, but he does go on these runs where he can seemingly kind of barge through 5 guys and still have the ball somehow velcroed to his foot. The only problem is then he gets to the other side and typically in the past has blasted over. Not since after the restart. It is like Moyes has had that little magic touch like he did with Arnautovic previously. So all of a sudden, Arnautovic, came forward.
He does like the skyrocket shot, doesn't he? But
after the restart, though, he was much more sort of on form on target. So yeah, who knows? So here's an interesting one for you, Joe. Thoughts on your manager?
Well,
I know you were talking the other day about. Go on.
What can you say? It's Arteta. Like, there's a bit of nostalgia about having Arteta, and he's had, I think, a really promising start. Obviously, there were some slip-ups, and there were some games that things just didn't work. And I actually think the concern I have with Arteta is not about us against the Big Six. You've seen how much he's changed our approach against Big Six, and we're actually starting to get results against them. But it's actually against what you would class as lower table sides. So you look at the Brighton game when we were 1-0 up and we couldn't hold out for a victory. And we just look a bit fragile when we're faced with a well-organised defensive team that doesn't kind of push and make space for us, that can then try and hit us on the counter. And I think if you set up like that and either get a goal before we do or manage to stay 0-0 for the first half, it creates issues about where do we break you down, and also make sure we keep staying at the back. But I think there's a lot of optimism about Arteta and what he's doing, the ethos of the club. The fact his role's changed as well this week. So he's no longer first team coach, he's first team manager. So he oversees kind of everything to do with the first team now. So although there are similarities with Wenger in that, it's kind of different in approach because he's got Edu with him and he bleeds Arsenal. I think the fans appreciate that and can give him a lot more understanding if things do go wrong than someone who comes in and has never had any Arsenal DNA. There's a lot of talk from the club about Arsenal DNA throughout personnel, and I think Arteta has that, and fans are much more lenient on him because of it.
Yeah, I know that you're clearly, I know that you're a big fan, and so that's a general feeling across the Arsenal fan base, is it?
I think there is a lot of optimism this season, just because you can see, even before the window had opened, like towards the end of last season, you could see defensively how much we'd improved, and that was a source of much frustration for us before lockdown and under Emery. And I think he's just built a team that he inherited, but he's built into them this desire to actually play for the shirt. And people always underestimate how much that actually means to fans, because it not only means you get results on the pitch, but you also then connect with your fan base a lot more, and people
absolutely. Any player who, you know, over West Ham, obviously, if they come to the crowd and they give it a bit of that, or they tap in the badge or whatever, it does make a big deal, and you do know the difference. You can tell the difference of who's just doing it because it's, I don't know, just something that players do, and the ones who actually feel it and they feel the crowd.
One day for us.
So on to the next subject, which is give me briefly your view of West Ham as not as competitive opposition, because I know you're just going to take the piss, but as, you know, fans have clubs that they see as rivals, clubs that they hate, clubs that, you know, they get on quite well with. What's your view as a whole on West Ham as a club?
See, I know a lot of people, especially of London-based clubs, absolutely detest West Ham, and I don't get why. I have kind of a soft spot for West Ham, but I think a lot of that comes from having a really close relationship with Pride of Irons and having that friendship with, like, you, Al, Joe, having friends, a lot of friends who enjoy football that I can talk about that are West Ham, realise that they want to do a lot. And I actually appreciate how much your club do for LGBT equality and work with you on that. And I think that's a wonderful thing. And I have a lot of respect for clubs that do that, despite not necessarily liking them on the pitch.
But that kind of thing aside, I suppose just from an outsider view, you know, is it like, take it as a general Arsenal fans perspective? Are West Ham one of the clubs that are hated, liked, indifferent?
I think there's indifference, but that's because you're irrelevant most of the time.
There always has to be a dig in. Not irrelevant when you're moving stadiums, though.
We'll just make sure next time we move stadiums, you're in the league below.
Then you'll probably have a flawless season, and we'll face you in a cup and then beat you. Yeah. Rob, same question. Like, what do you? I mean, obviously I could answer, but your thoughts on Arsenal as a club, as an outsider?
I don't really hate any club, if I'm honest. I'm one of the people. I'm a football fan, and I go and watch any football game. You know me, Jim. I go and watch my local team around the corner play. We go to Germany. My stag do watch the team play. You know,
I love St. Pauli. That was awesome.
Yes, it was. Yeah, and when I've been to see Arsenal play, and I've been lucky enough when I was younger that I worked at West Ham, and I've met a lot of ex-Arsenal players like Ian Wright, and they used to tell me all stories about Arsenal, and I used to absolutely love hearing them. And they just talk about like how like they used to go out with West Ham players and stuff, and there was this kind of like interlinked like with teams between all the London teams, and I used to absolutely, and I just kind of loved it. And Arsenal have always played really good football, and you just think about when the Premier League first started, and you had all them amazing players in the Arsenal team, from David Rocastle and Ian Wright, and just even Campbell as well. Just one of the names off the top of your head, but it just it's such like there's such a kind of feeling for it. They are kind of like the face of the Premier League, along with some of the bigger teams as well, and I think they always will be.
I think actually with Wenger going has done you favours in terms of the outside opinion of Arsenal. I mean, I would say that I'm sure I know you folks all loved him, but the typical kind of the attitude he kind of had, it was quite snooty. I remember do you remember that scuffle between him and Pardew, and Pardew fronted up to him and gave him a little shove, and
everyone
then he was kind of like, yeah. But he seemed like a whinger. I think that's what it is. He was a bit of a whinger, and then obviously the classic "I didn't see it." I think moving away from him as the face of your club, I think has probably done you some favours, because people don't see. Because I think he was synonymous with the brand, I guess, of Arsenal, and people don't think of Arsenal, I think of Wenger. They don't think of Arteta either necessarily.
When you think how long he was there, for me, I think he became manager when I was like 3, so he was all I knew for Arsenal until he left. So it was huge, I think, for the club as well to move on, and we'd seen how badly managed that could be done if your name is Manchester United, and we didn't do as badly, I don't think, but it took us a little bit of time to find the right person and also have the right time to get that person in. I think if we'd have got Arteta from the start, it'd have been way too early.
Yeah, I agree with that, actually. I think he's needed time to kind of bed in, being at Manchester City as well. He's learned some trick of the trade as well, which is obviously going to bring to the Arsenal as well. So I think that's a kind of a good thing for you guys, and I think you only benefit from it as well in the long run. and he's young, and you only get better. I'm hoping,
So
I'm hoping too.
Yeah, don't hope too much, Rob. So Joe, where do you expect yourself and West Ham to finish at the end of the season?
I would cautiously say I'd be happy with. I want 4th at least. I would be happy with 5th, but I think we should be pushing for top 4. I think this is a season where kind of it gives Arteta that leap in. Next season, I will be saying top 4, hands down. If we're not fighting for top 4, I'll be thoroughly disappointed. This season, I think as long as we make a good go of it and get Europe and have a nice little cup run, I think that would be kind of reasonable for the club, given where we are at and how long Arteta's had to mould it how he wants. West Ham, I think you're going to... I don't want you to go down, because I like you guys. I get on with like your group. There are a lot of friends that I'll have that would be very sad if West Ham went down, but I think you'll be in for a scrap.
Fair enough. And Rob, we know your thoughts on where West Ham are going to finish, but what about Arsenal?
I actually put them down as going 5th in my bet. I actually said they're going to be 5th. So I reckon, same with Joe, 5th or 4th is, with the money they've spent and with the manager bedded in. And I really like their centre-back they bought. I thought it was fantastic at the weekend when the first game. I thought he was dominant in both areas, the attacking end and defensive end. So I think that's something they've really lacked in, and they've seen it. They've gone out and spent money on it. Just wish we did the same thing.
Amen. So, Rob, you first on this one. So, first goal scorer this weekend's match.
Oh, I'm going to say
and scoreline.
I'm going to say Antonio, but we're going to lose 3-1.
That's so West Ham. We're going to score first.
We'll be all happy.
Throw it away.
I'll be throwing confetti in my living room. And it just degrade.
Okay, fine. We're going to score first, and it's going to be Antonio, and we're going to lose. Joe, first goal
Annoyingly,
scorer.
I'm going to change mine now. I thought you were going to score first, like you did at London Stadium last season, and then collapse, which you had the pleasure of, Jim, of being sat next to me for that game, and that was quite entertaining. But no, I'm now going to say I still think 3-1 is probably a right score. I think we'll get one on the break, but I think we will manage to get some wonder goals in there or break you down, bit of set piece play. I'm going to go for William to score first. He had a superb debut for us. Wonderful for anyone who's got him in fantasy football, which I now have substituted him in.
Same here.
So fingers crossed he scores like a hat trick. I'd love that. But he looked really strong, creative, pacey, could see things, was creating opportunities. Be nice for him to get a goal.
Okay. What
about you, Jim?
I think
Jim's passing on that one.
No, I think we're due another heart attack game. So I reckon that we will score first, but in the second half, it's going to be a dull first half. We're going to score in the second half, and then struggle to cling on, but we're going to somehow do it, and it's going to be a heart attack game. I reckon we're going to win.
1-0.
Yeah. I don't actually. I don't. But that's what I hope. That's my prediction. Damn it. Yes, living for the drama.
You're so positive.
So thank you very much for Joe for joining us this week. Thanks again to Rob, and we'll catch you guys again next week.
Thank you.
Come on, you guys.
Really.